Welcome back, guys. I'm Cupid, and I have schizophrenia. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about the different forms of schizophrenia and possibly tell a story. I don't really have much else other than that for today, but the different forms of schizophrenia, I did find a lot of good information, maybe a little bit of backstory on them, and just some good information. So, looking forward to talking about it. It's probably not as interesting of a subject as I offered yesterday, which I felt like that I had got a lot of information on, and I think that some people really enjoy learning it, and um, it was very intriguing, a lot of useful information. But today it's kind of, a little less of a dramatic thing, I guess, is really what it is. Less dramatic, less of the, you know. So schizophrenia affects 0.6% to 1% of the global population. How I like to think of it is that we're rare. Um, we are unique. We are the cool kids. Not as many people out there, but it's still a good population of the world. I mean, if you think about it, 1%, that's a good amount of the world. But still rare. There's a whole another 99% out there. Um, Different forms of schizophrenia is paranoid schizophrenic, um, catatonic schizophrenic, disorganized or hebephrenic schizophrenia, childhood schizophrenia, or schizo-affective disorder. Those are all different forms of schizophrenia. Um, so in 2013, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, changed the method of classification to bring all of these categories into one single heading, and that's schizophrenia. So they no longer are their own diagnosis, they are all a subtype of schizophrenia. Um, so let's see, I had some really good information. So let's start off and talk about the different subtypes of schizophrenia. Um, a person with schizo-affective disorder experiences a combination of schizophrenia symptoms, such as hallucinations, delusions, kit, um, and delusion, and mood disorder symptoms, such as mania or depression. So they also experience mood issues on top of the delusions and things like that. Um, in the past, a person had to have both sets of symptoms at the same time to receive a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder. But as of 2013, um, they to be diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a person must have experienced mood disorders for most of the time they have also had the psychotic symptoms of schizophrenia. So then we have catatonia. Catatonia is like a catatonic type of state, which I'm going to tell you I have been in the catatonic state many times throughout my diagnosis. When they get too loud, there's too many of them going on, and they're all talking so much, and then all kinds of other things are happening. Um, I get I get into a catatonic state. I can't function. I can't do anything. I can't exist in that moment. My brain stops functioning for a while. My mouth stops functioning. I can't hear anything that's happening outside of them. I can't see anything outside of them. I'm just gone in that catatonic state. Um, catatonia includes, not that I have catatonia, by the way. I don't, I haven't been diagnosed with that. But I know that people with schizophrenia do have catatonic states that they go into sometimes. Catatonia includes extreme behaviors are extremes of behavior. Catatonia can include excessive and peculiar motor behavior, sometimes referred to as a catatonic excitement. Catatonia can also include decreased motor activity and engagement. For example, people in a catatonic stupor demonstrate a dramatic reduction in activity where the patient cannot speak, move, or respond. Virtually all movements stop. Um, Catatonia can occur with schizophrenia and a range of their conditions, including bipolar disorder. For this reason, it is not. It is now considered as it is. Um, for this reason, it is now considered a specifier for schizophrenia and other mood disorders rather than a type of schizophrenia. So it's no longer a subtype; it is more just a symptom, which there's a few other ones as well. Childhood onset schizophrenia. Um, the symptoms of schizophrenia normally appear during early adulthood. So they say in your late teens, early 20s, um, but they can sometimes emerge during childhood at the age of 10 years or earlier. It is extremely rare with an incidence of less than 0.04%. Um, if schizophrenia does occur in a child, it is very serious and treatment is needed. However, healthy children can experience hallucinations. So if this happens, it does not mean that a child has schizophrenia. And in my belief systems, a child is more in tune with the other realms, the other worlds. Therefore, they see um, things more commonly than an adult would. Um, Things like spirits or whatever. So it is more likely that a child would see things, and it's kind of interesting that you don't have to be schizophrenic to see things as a child. But some people never grow out of it, and they still have that intunement um, where they are able to see those things still. Feel, hear, whatever, those kinds of things. Um, so yeah, that's childhood onset schizophrenia. Disorganized schizophrenia or hebephrenia. Um, dis, uh, so it's disorganized thinking and behavior are features of schizophrenia. The person may have incoherent and illogical thoughts and speech. This can make it difficult to perform daily activities, such as preparing meals and taking care of personal hygiene, which is it can happen with any form of schizophrenia, um, depending on how severe it gets. But personally, or particularly with this, people may not be able to understand what the patient is saying. This can lead to frustration and agitation, which I've been in those moments where people can't understand what I'm saying because I'm talking about something that has to do with a whole nother thing that people didn't have any idea of that happened or things like that. So while disorganization is a feature of schizophrenia, it is no longer considered a separate subtype. And that is the same. That same goes for people with the subtype paranoid schizophrenic is no longer its own subtype as well. It is now just a symptom of schizophrenia, just like the disorganized schizophrenia. So yeah, and people with paranoia are schizophrenics with paranoia. It happens to, I think, almost all schizophrenics, and it's different um, variations, different levels of paranoia. So some people have more paranoia than others, and also some people go through periods where they have more extreme paranoia than they did, than other people might have had. So now it's time for story time. Did all of that fun, fun information, you guys, fun information about schizophrenia. Now I'm going to talk about a story of things that have happened to me. Um, so I was living in an apartment in our downtown area. It was not too far from the police station or the jail, but it was a nice place. It was brand new. Um, I was the first person to ever live in that specific apartment that I lived in, whereas like there was other people that lived in the building before I moved in, but I was the first person to live in that apartment. Um, so when I first started living there, when I first was living there, I would sleep in my bedroom every night. Um, and then I started seeing this woman in my bedroom. She would just appear randomly and would be standing like she's staring off into space. Um, I don't know how else to explain it. She was an older woman. Um, so I got so scared that I turned my bedroom into a storage area, and I started sleeping out in the living room on my couch. Um, it was it was pretty interesting because I ended up finding out that before I moved in, an older woman died in the apartment next door to mine, which is crazy because that bedroom that I was sleeping in was right next door to that apartment. Um, the bedroom had shared a wall with it, and I also ended up finding out that the building that was there before this building was built was a CSI building, and they used to have all kinds of, um, you know, dead bodies and paraphernalia from people who were murdered or things like that, um, died, things like that. And so, it probably had a lot of different energies that went into why I could have seen a woman in the bedroom at night or during certain times of the day, even. I also had time periods where I would see a woman in my kitchen, and my kitchen was actually it was open to my living room, so it was considered one room technically. Like there was no walls or anything in between. Um, and so, I would see her in there sometimes, but I still felt safer in the living room because I didn't see the woman in the kitchen as often. But sometimes I would see her, and I remember her just walking back and forth one time, um, you know, doing like weird stuff, like she didn't know what was going on, kind of like the other woman in my bedroom. Like she just was in her own catatonic state, didn't know what was going on. Um, yeah, I had some pretty interesting stuff that happened at that building. We used to have a fire alarm that would go off almost every single week, and it was because someone was doing something stupid, like just not not doing the right things. Like someone left their food on the stove too long, and the smoke built up and started the fire alarm. And the fire alarm wasn't like, beep, 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 like, you get your little fire alarms. This was like, ah, ah, ah. The whole building has to like vacate and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was very interesting. We had one guy who hung stuff from the sprinklers on the ceiling and broke one and flooded the whole building, and then that set off the fire alarm. Um, oh my God, there was so many different things. There was just so many different things, and the fire alarm was so sensitive. It wasn't like I didn't understand why we didn't have like those simple little fire alarms that let us know that something crazy is happening, and you can just go fix it real quickly. Like, oh, smoke in the building. Okay, let me air it out. No, it was like, let's let the whole building know so that you can all vacate and the fire department can show up. Oh, that shit used to annoy me. Um, my cat would freak out, and I didn't know, like, I would not know um, how serious it was. So what I would do is I would grab my cat and put her in the carrier and take her out and be like, nope, not leaving my cat up there. And she would freak out whenever the alarm would go off because it was so loud. So I'd have to chase her down. No, I wasn't gonna leave her behind though. There's no way. I love that cat too much. I actually got her the year that a few months after I moved into that apartment building, and I've had her ever since. What, She's gonna be 7 April 11th. So 7 on April 11th. Yeah, yeah. So I've had her for a while now. Um, let's see. I don't think I have time for that one. Um, okay, I can go into this one. So talking about childhood onset schizophrenia. I had signs when I was a kid that I was schizophrenic. Um, I was diagnosed at about 8 or 9 years old with schizophrenia. I also had other diagnoses before that and other diagnoses that I was diagnosed with after that. But when I was a teenager, I also had counselors tell me that I looked schizophrenic or sounded schizophrenic because of certain things. One thing in particular um, was that I would see, I had posters, I was obsessed with Britney Spears, like obsessed. I just loved her more than life itself. Um, I wanted so badly. If you didn't know I was gay, um, then then I don't know what's wrong with you. But I was in love with her. I loved Britney Spears. Like I could marry her. Um, and I had posters of her everywhere, literally everywhere. And I would sometimes in the middle of the night or even during the day see them moving, and like her in the picture would move, or she'd be wearing something completely different, or like creepy things. Like one time her face was bleeding from her eyes, and like um, I don't know, there's weird stuff that would happen. And I told one of my counselors about it, and she's like, "That sounds like schizophrenia." So I didn't ever talk about it again after that because I was so scared. No, I don't want to be diagnosed schizophrenic. That's crazy. That's too crazy for me. Like I already have enough issues with the diagnosis that I have. I don't want to get worse, you know. Um, but yeah, so I had signs then, and that was some interesting stuff. That I would have some weird stuff that showed up. I had a lot of weird stuff show up as a kid too. Different signs, nothing like prevalent until my early 20s, but that was when it really appeared, like really, 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 like just whoosh, extreme. And I'll have to talk about that another day about um, how I knew it was schizophrenia and the different things that appeared in the beginning. So I'll have to talk about that another time. I think that's my video for today. You guys stay beautiful, stay wonderful, stay amazing, stay awesome, stay unique, stay you, and be good to yourself. All right? Peace and love, guys.